So hi and welcome. Welcome to the first of our live events, and this one in particular in conversation with. I'm Peter, the regional HSE manager for Douglas OHI, and this is Dr.
I'm Dr. Anuya, and I am a psychologist, psychotherapist, and a mental health professional. I've been in this field for 20 years now and helping families, adults to sort of cope with life stressors and live a better life.
Good, thank you. Thank you for taking the trouble to join us.
My pleasure.
This morning.
My pleasure.
The purpose of our session, really, 30-minute session, is to have a discussion broadly around creating a better level of understanding about mental health, awareness and such like.
Yes.
And you're the expert, subject matter expert. And what we're hoping is that the session is as interactive as it can be. So feel free to add any questions to the chat. We'll talk hopefully between us for 25 minutes thereabouts, and have 5 minutes of Q&A. So thanks again. Let's go. So we talk a lot about mental health. Well, traditionally, people like me, health and safety people, talk about health and safety, and I guess in the physical context, safety, the things that hurt us straight away, and health, we think about noise, dust, so on and so forth. And of late, thankfully, there's a broader discussion about mental health.
Yeah.
However, what do we mean by mental health?
Mental health is just as important as physical health. Mental health, according to WHO, World Health Organization, a simple definition of mental health is overall well-being of a person. So it includes many aspects, but I will just narrow it down to psychological, emotional, economical, social aspect of a person. So what do we mean by psychological? So if a person is overall able to cope with life stressors and challenges and is resilient enough to, make decisions in everyday life or maybe big decisions in life, the person is doing all right. Socially, if the person is able to connect, build relationship at workplace, in personal life, ask for support, give support to others, that is also an aspect of mental health and wellness. Emotionally able to detect or know what you're going through, emotionally able to label and recognize your emotions, manage your emotions well. It can be anxiety, disappointment, failure, it could be sadness. So able to manage your emotions and express them in a healthy way is also a very important aspect of mental health.
I mean, not for now, but I hear this phrase, emotional intelligence, a lot. Perhaps that's a discussion for another day.
Yes, please.
Yeah, perhaps.
Very important, yeah.
So there are many aspects of mental health,
Right.
by the sounds of it. And one way or another, we will all be either suffering from good mental health or mental ill health, I guess.
Right.
As part of life. And you
Right.
mentioned our ability to make decisions, so on and so forth.
Right.
What do we mean by mental ill health?
Okay. So these are the important areas in life, psychological, social, economical. And whenever a person is not able to cope with these areas on a larger scale, it causes mental ill health. Now, how to recognize signs and symptoms maybe?
Good, yeah.
To make it very easy, because in everyday life we don't use words like mental illness, mental ill health, mental health. So then how to recognize signs and symptoms in your colleagues, or how can managers recognize it in employees, or how can a loved one recognize it at home in a family member? Simple ones are physical and mood related. So if we say physical, you can see that the person seems a bit more slowed down or lethargic. You can maybe see that the person has gained a lot of weight in a very short period of time or lost a lot of weight in about 2 months or 3 months. That is a sign and symptom of anxiety and depression. You might observe that the person is undergoing a lot of sickness, maybe more sick leaves at work,
Sure.
complaining about headaches, complaining about some or the other illness, and body aches. And if it continues for more than 2 weeks, 3 weeks, definitely needs to be looked at. Other signs and symptoms are mood related. So we all work with colleagues day after day, and we know their normal nature. So if we see that a colleague has particularly become irritable, snappy, short-tempered, which is not in his nature, definitely some stress is going on over there. It's a sign, it's a red flag. Secondly, if the person is socially withdrawn, so avoids meetings, avoids office parties, usually is talkative, but now chooses to be isolated at his desk, do his work, and go home. That is one of the sign. Again, these symptoms, if they last for more than 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we have to be concerned. Another one is if a person starts making more errors at work, which he or she particularly doesn't. So starts making more error or takes more time for a task than usual, that could also be a sign of, he or she is undergoing anxiety or some mental illness, or,
Okay. So it sounds like there isn't one definitive symptom. And I guess you mentioned stress in there. I guess a certain amount of stress is a good thing. I
Yes,
take it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So certain amount of stress can lead you to be motivated, can you keep you focused, you
Yeah.
can feel surge of energy. But when it goes beyond the normal standard level, it can in fact cause a person to slow down and not perform well at
Because
tasks.
it's stress, the
Yeah.
energy.
Yes, and some people are predisposed to genetic
Sure.
stress, or the genetic mental ill health, or symptoms, hereditary, like it comes neurologically, it's very natural, it not related to stress. So we can also keep an eye for that.
So is it fair to say then with some people, it's just the way you are, it's just you being you?
Yeah, right.
But if we do see certain behaviors, abnormal, my phrase, not normal behaviors in our colleagues that last for
More than
more
2 to
than
3 weeks.
yeah, then some kind of intervention, I guess,
Absolutely. Yes.
is required. So it sounds like there's a definite crossover then between the physical well-being and the mental well-being of somebody and the physical wellness.
Right.
So is that true?
It is true. So prolonged stress levels, prolonged high stress levels in a person can cause physical changes in the heart, in the blood pressure, in the stomach. So usually what a person can develop high blood pressure and start with the medication of high blood pressure, which also we have to keep an eye on. A person might develop diabetes, sugar. So we have to keep an eye on that. A person might have an irritable bowel syndrome, IBS. So just having a history of what physical symptoms of physical illnesses the person is going through is always good. And if over a period of time we see more and more of these symptoms, it is related to stress. So the brain is the center of all. And when it detects the person is under stress, it just keeps releasing cortisol and keeps releasing stress hormones,
Sure.
which gears up the body more and more, which makes the heart pump faster, which makes the stomach stop digestion, and it just creates a whole lot of complications.
This is this fight, flight, or freeze thing.
Absolutely. And if it happens once in a while, if it happens once in a week, okay. But if a person is constantly in that state of physical being, then it develops different complications. Yeah.
So I guess in summary, then a certain amount of stress is a good thing. However, if it's a prolonged, regularly repeated emotion,
Right.
it could cross over into the physical side of things
Correct.
and cause those things that
Correct.
you mentioned. So that's quite interesting. Thank you. I suppose it's not all bad news then. So what can we do? I mean, thinking about the workplace context or our personal life, I'll leave that one to you. What do you think we could do really to better manage our mental health? And bear in mind that, we're as an organisation, we have people in offices, but we also have many people in our camps and our employee villages, as we call them.
Right.
You know, what kind of things can we or they do you think, to improve mental health?
I think overall, just introducing a very supportive environment, fostering a very supportive environment at work really helps. And regularly conducting workshops and seminars which introduce the language of mental health. What is mental health? How to recognize signs and symptoms of stress. It makes it easier for everybody to use the language and to detect the signs and symptoms. Also, the openness of communication, where if they start speaking the language, start recognizing, oh, maybe my colleague is going through stress right now, I can see the signs and symptoms, to have an easy approach towards a professional who is provided at the workplace, or manager or anybody in a higher place, to say that I think I'm going through anxiety, or I think I'm going through something. So just opening up the channels of communication is also a very good idea.
Yeah, I suppose speaking from a male perspective, if you like, looking through the eyes of a male, I understand the theory of opening up, and in fact, you'll probably see here that we have our "It's Okay to Talk to Me About Health, Safety, and Wellbeing" program in the company. It can be somewhat challenging, perhaps, to open up.
Right.
Yeah, it's as simple as that, really.
Yeah,
But
because
what are the barriers to that, and why do you think people find
I think
difficult to open up?
I think the male brain and female brain is different, and men particularly are conditioned from a very young age to not express emotions and not ask for support in many cultures. And at workplace also, men find it very difficult to ask for support or express their emotions if they're going through something. What it does is, if we conduct seminars and workshops where people are taught the language in an educational way to ask for support and speak up, it doesn't stay as a stigma or a sign of weakness. So men also can learn to speak the language and ask for support and feel a little comfortable without feeling stigmatized or feeling, no, I might seem vulnerable when I'm asking for support, and not look at it as emotional weakness, but it is happening something on a mental level, and look at it as if, how easy is it for men to say, I have I have developed a heart condition and I'm taking tablets. It's so easy to talk to colleagues about it, but at the same time, I have been sleepless and I think I'm on a verge of a breakdown, that they will not express.
No.
So making men more comfortable by educating them with the language that they can use very simply, and not look at it as vulnerability or weakness, is something that we can do through seminars and workshops. Definitely, we have to break down the connection between asking for support emotionally and a sign of weakness. They both are not the same.
Well, here's a question for you. Trying to put this into a modern context, because I think I remember the book Men Are From Venus, Women From Mars. That's that kind of thing.
It's a good book.
Yeah,
everybody should read it.
I've recommended. But I noticed these days, especially with the children, you feel like, I don't know how different it is for adults, but in the world of TikTok and online communication, I guess connectivity is a good thing. Can it also be a bad thing, having this constant connectivity and all this external pressure about what we should be, what we must look like and have? So is connectivity a bit of a problem, do you think?
What I think is virtual connectivity is the problem here.
Good point.
So let it be at workplace, or let it be with kids, let it be with anybody. But we are social animals. Humans are social animals. We need social support. We need community. Let it be at work, let it be at home. So if we learn to stay connected with people on physical level, interacting every day in person, it gives us a sense of belongingness, community, and support. But if a person is working remotely for a very long time virtually,
Yeah.
it can cause depression. It can cause feeling of isolation and boredom and sadness. So connectivity is in fact very good for humans, in physically face to face and in person. Virtual, not so good, which is happening more and more
Of
nowadays.
course, yeah.
Right.
Perhaps I think about our employees who are based in some of those more remote locations where that connectivity, that digital connectivity, sorry, is very, very important because it allows them to
Right.
communicate with loved ones and
Right.
so on and so forth. I've never, well, I have actually, but that physical connectivity between
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, good that you mentioned that people who are posted in remote areas, and in fact, for them, it's a blessing. It's really good
Yeah.
to be in touch with people through virtual means, and it keeps them, feeling connected and feeling supported. So
Yeah, I often think that the connectivity, the Wi-Fi, to keep things simple for me, it is as important for the soul as water is for the body in these more remote locations. And in our company, we're not quite as remote as the oil and gas people do in the wells, but nonetheless, the high reliant on that connectivity. But one thing I did notice when I first came into the company, into the Middle East, was that everybody I spoke to, how are you? We say, how are you all the time. And everybody virtually always says, I'm fine. And I guess it's nigh on impossible for everybody to be
okay
fine
all the
all
time.
the time.
No,
It's impossible, and
it's
that in
impossible.
of itself is
Maybe you can shed some light on, like, how do you handle your stress levels? How do you express? If somebody asks you, are you okay? How do
Yeah.
you like?
Well, I guess you can see my body language. I've got a little bit uncomfortable with that question. Are you going to pay me for this conference, or is it
It's free.
consultation? Is it
It's
free?
free.
Oh, I'll open up then. So I guess it's if people ask me how are you, it will kind of depend on the amount of trust I have for for that relationship.
Comfort.
Yeah, how comfortable I express being me, because most people, many of us will have a work face when we come, come there. So it would be highly dependent on who I'm talking to. To me, it's all about trust. Do I trust that person to share the truth? Do I trust that person would keep my confidence if I wanted to express the real emotion I'm feeling? So I weigh them up, and that's something. Trust is something that's big for me, and it takes a long time to build up trust, as it does for an employer and employee relationship. And trust can be very quickly
Yeah.
done.
Here, I think to make it easy for everybody, what Peter said is so important. It's not just easy to open up and talk about what you're going through. So I think regularly conducting just simple self-rating questionnaires, which can be just distributed to everybody at work through email or through just one page questionnaire, and they can answer it. The questions are very simple, but they are related to how the person is actually doing mentally, emotionally. And it's a very simple scoring questionnaire, and they can calculate it by themselves. At the end of it, they will say, so my score is a little higher on anxiety or a little higher on I'm not doing well. So the person becomes a little aware of themselves and then maybe can seek support. So sometimes it's not very easy to just talk about it in a passage and say that I'm not doing well. But I think conducting regular questionnaires and self-rating scales, which are very easily available, is a very good start to break the ice, icebreaker.
And I guess once we take that first step, we're on a journey. I guess I hate that phrase as a rule, but so I see there is a question, if you like. Thank you for that from Jerin. And so Jerry's question is around, I think I pointed over your shoulder earlier, this IPSO-K program that we have in the company. We try to foster, I think I'm using your words, or create this culture of conversation. We have guiding principles, supporting principles that go with our program. And one of them is, because I'm going to circle back a little bit. One of them is, talk about it. So one of our guiding principles for our program is talk about it. And I know the theory behind it, and I will talk all day long, no problem with that. How can we make it easier as a company or as managers or colleagues to allow others to talk about it? I'm good at talking, but listening is a different thing, I guess, or acting. So any tips on what we can do to enable a conversation?
I think organizing, because everybody doesn't like to talk about their problems all the time. So if we are encouraging people to open up about their mental health or what they're going through, they might not always like to talk about it. Maybe occasionally having games, games at workplace, bringing people together and letting them come out of their shell and have some fun in a way, and interact and have some laughs to start with. And to feel the connectivity, because if everybody is in their cubicles, just they come at 9, finish their work, they're very task oriented, they want to finish their work, there's a lot of pressure, and then they go home at 6. So nobody is really interacting on a pleasure or fun level. I know it is too much in a workplace where there is a lot of tasks to complete, but occasionally conducting games. There are many games which psychologically allow people to break the ice and open up, and can in fact make people more expressive, to approach, to ask for support. So that is one fun way or relaxed way of breaking the ice.
I guess that's a shared experience.
It is a shared experience. Team games, allowing people to be in teams, and so where they can feel supported by each other. It really fosters the emotion of being supported. It's a teamwork, how to work together, how to ask for support, and it's a fun way of fostering what you're asking for.
As you're talking, I was reflecting actually about on an experience I had quite recently in one of our projects here in Muscat, where I was invited to join in the warm-up exercise. So the guys, before they start work, were led by a team leader. And we would all line up and touch our toes and stretch and do all those things. And the idea was to prepare the body for a day's labour, if you want, reaching, stretching, all those things. But actually, talk about this little shared experience. I could feel the energy and things just it just felt good to do that. And then when I saw the guys after, we were looking at each other in a completely different light.
This is so wonderful. I completely agree with you. Starting with a bit of stretches and physical activity together, it just breaks the monotony of how a person starts the day with, and it relaxes, and you don't have to be in a work posture, and you're stretching, you're relaxed, and it's actually a fantastic idea to have that very regular.
Doing something similar, but that was because it was winter.
Yeah,
it's cold, and there was a physical benefit to it, but I could also talk about the mental,
and also maybe changing the questions from "Are you okay?" to "How are you?" to just changing the questions like, "So, how is your day going? How is your day going?"
There's no escape from an open question. You have to give.
You have to give the answer. So, how is your day going? And how is your week going? So a person has to give a detailed answer about it. So changing the regular question of "Are you okay? How are you doing?" are very short-ended questions and very close-ended questions. So we can change the style of asking questions as well at workplace.
Change the narrative, I guess. You wouldn't believe it, but we're kind of coming towards the end of our. So I've still got a few minutes left. So remember, if there are any questions that you would like to ask,
Please.
Not me, our subject matter expert, that'd be most welcome. So on a professional basis, you clearly deal with people in.
Mm.
Probably most people come to see you when they've got a problem. I don't go to see my doctor unless I don't go there unless it's a thing I've got, and I sometimes feel a bit better. A tablet. We feel a bit cheated sometimes if I've not had a tablet from the doctor. But in your line of work, do you find, well, I guess people come in a certain way and you've seen the change in people and
Right.
what are the benefits perhaps of reaching out for help, I guess?
Absolutely. I think when you're asking me that question, I would like to talk about how nowadays we take care of our physical health. We go to the gym sometimes, we go for walks, we eat healthy, we avoid eating certain foods, we go for regular medical checkups. I would really encourage everybody to go for regular checkups for their mental health. So when we mention mental health, people can go back a little bit and think of it as it's mental illness. Mental health is not mental illness. When we talk about mental health and going for a checkup to a counselor, to a life coach, you're just checking upon how overall are your coping skills with life, how resilient you are. Maybe you can grow in some areas of life. Maybe you feel stuck in some areas of life. So just going for a regular talk with a therapist and a counselor is not an indication that you have a mental illness. It is like a checkup like a blood work that you go for. And really encouraging people to do that is very important.
And there are many people such as yourselves who could do that.
Yes, absolutely.
Of course.
Absolutely. And you see the changes in people. So
yes,
sometimes you just need a place to just talk about life issues or a place to just talk about yourself and explore your potential. So when you come for such professional meetings, or you come and see a psychologist, come and see a life coach, you can in fact reach your fullest potential in career, work-wise, and personal life. So how to reach your fullest potential, how to live life fully. You can even learn those skills.
Yeah, so you become the best possible you.
Yes, exactly. So you don't have to go to a professional just because you're going through, a very
We don't need
severe.
to be broken.
Exactly,
to get fixed.
exactly. You can come before that.
I think I'll write that down. You don't need to be broken. You don't need to be broken to get fixed.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
good,
beautifully said.
You can use that one if you want.
I would.
No challenge at all. So we're really nearly at the end of our 30 minutes. It's really quite, time has flown by. Really interesting. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to miss something out, but in summary, please stop me if I'm wrong. We all exercise mental health, whether we want to or not. It can be mental stress is one of the factors that can influence our health. Some stress is a good thing.
Yes.
Because it keeps us focused. However, should those stress levels and the symptoms associated with it go on for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, you said, and it's time to reach out for help.
Yes, it is time to reach out for help.
And there are certain signs that we can look out for in our friends and colleagues of mental health changes in behaviour.
Right.
You mentioned, I think, mood swings and changes and
physical changes.
Physical change. You might go a bit fatter, as I do. Sometimes I go a bit thinner, as I do, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. But what I didn't ask about was I've noticed some people self-medicate. I've heard this phrase. Perhaps taking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, or overeating. Are these
symptoms of
also
mental ill health as well?
Yeah.
So very easily available substances are alcohol and nicotine and oily foods, eating a lot of foods. So craving for carbs, sugars. So if you see increase in intake of any of these substances and it is somewhere normalized that I'm under stress, I'll just have a drink, I'm stressed, just have a smoke outside. But if you see your colleague regularly smokes 10 cigarettes, but is smoking 20 now.
You're about that change in behavior.
Yes, you have to observe that. So he is definitely going through something. And if you see the colleague coming late to work, is maybe having a, what do you say, when you have a lot of alcohol the earlier night, a hangover, that is also, and you see more and more of that, that is also a sign of something is wrong.
And that's where some kind of intervention would be
Yes.
recommended.
Yes. Rather than just asking, are you okay? The person should be called in separately and maybe given the questionnaire, and or maybe, how is your day going? And are there stresses in your personal life? Sometimes there's loss in the family, death in the family, loss of parents, loss of finances, and we are not aware of that in workplace. We just know it, so we send our condolences, but it can affect different people differently. Or there's loss of a marriage. So the personal life stresses can pour into workplace as well. And we
And I
need
guess many of those things that we spoke about, or you mentioned, sorry, just life events. Sounds like there's a lot more that we could
talk about.
but
It's a
time is
vast
against
field.
us. Yeah, it's huge. It's I guess in recap, well, we've summarised many of the points, and I guess it is okay sometimes to reach out for professional help and support.
Absolutely.
And perhaps there are benefits of having the sessions that you mentioned within the workplace,
Seminars and workshops.
those kind of things. Yeah, I'm sure you'd be able to support with that. And perhaps there is a bit more to the kind of the conversations that we need to be had, perhaps challenging, not easy. But thank you for that.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for calling me.
We're a little bit over, actually. Thank you for everybody who took the trouble to tune in, or whatever the phrase is. But sincerely, thank you for taking the time for popping over. Sometimes it's very difficult to talk in a very limited time about something really, really important. So if you would like to know more about this, please reach out. If you would like the contact details of Dr. Anuya, please get in touch. And from that moment onwards, everything's confidential.
It is confidential. That's the first rule of
trust.
First rule of therapy and support, confidentiality.
So you're not going to tell these people what I told you about me earlier?
Not at all. It's promise. It's confidential. Yes.
Okay, lovely. All right. Well, thank you for everybody. Thank you from me, Peter, and
thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me, and this has been a pleasure.
You're very welcome. Thank you.